Hello, and welcome to another edition of Expertera's podcast. As you all know, at Expertera, we really believe in the power of the expert. And as such, we try to do podcasts with different experts from all different regions, industries, specializations throughout the world. And today, I'm thrilled to have with me a drone industry expert. I know this is an area that we've, it's definitely a hot topic, an area we've had some interest in. So we are here today with Jessie Mooberry, and she's going to tell us a little more about her experience in the industry and her background. Hi, Jessie. Nice to see you.
Hi, Al. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here in the beautiful San Francisco today recording this podcast.
Great. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into the drone industry, and what you've done thus far.
So I started in the drone industry about 5 years ago. My background is in finance and Mandarin Chinese. I studied international business, and I started out with IBM doing a little bit of consulting in Shanghai, and then started a couple of my own companies. My exposure to the drone world was through a humanitarian cargo drone startup called Uplift Aeronautics, and we were trying to figure out how to reach besieged populations using unmanned systems. So we were designing a drone out of a garage here in Stanford, a very romantic startup story similar to the Gatesian or Jobs eras of Silicon Valley. And the problem we were trying to solve is how do we reach civilians that are unreachable otherwise. So if you are surrounded by armed actors, how do you get in humanitarian aid? How do you get into food? How do you deliver water to these people, essentially breaking the siege? And so we developed an aircraft, fixed wing, that could travel 100 kilometers round trip and airdrop 2 kilos for the price of $1,000 per aircraft.
Wow.
Which is really, really cheap.
Yeah.
So we are a nonprofit. And the idea was if we had these launching every 5 minutes, we could create a continuous stream of humanitarian aid, darkening the sky to serve the humans on the ground.
Very cool. Very interesting. So what happened with that project? Or is it the company still active?
So it became very hard politically to use the drones. We were really hoping to fly humanitarian aid into Syria, since those are the largest besieged populations at this time. But politically, we just couldn't find a way to go forward. So we developed the drones. We built out a team of 50 volunteers all around the world, humanitarian experts, Harvard law students, Syrian engineers, science fiction writers, you name it. We had one of those people volunteering for us, which was really heartwarming and really wonderful, and it shows that the world really cared. Unfortunately, that didn't sway some of the politicians. We needed to move on this project. So we still have the loose network of people that have the skills and knowledge, but we don't have a way to deploy this technology right now. So I moved on to the commercial UAV world. I joined a team, SwarmX, out of Singapore. They were building autonomous systems for the energy industry. So for solar panels, we were detecting hotspots or inefficiencies in the solar panels through aerial thermal cameras. And then for oil and gas, we were detecting leaks and other actionable data points. So it was a really interesting transition for me going from fixed wing humanitarian to multi-rotor for the commercial industry.
Yeah, and I think that's also a good example of where the industry is going itself, starting from kind of large concepts and, how it could be helpful to, how do we commercialize it? How do we use it in our everyday business and lives?
Absolutely. It's much easier to make a business case when you have larger margins to operate with.
Very true. Fantastic. So on that note, where do you see, in terms of kind of the future, what are some trends you see in the drone industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the drone industry has changed a lot, and I think where we have to start is we have to define what a drone is. The drones that I'm talking about are small aerial vehicles, so UAV, unmanned aerial vehicles, which are usually between half a pound and about 50 pounds maximum in size, because of course drones can also be underwater vehicles, or they could be the vehicles that drive down the street and deliver a book, as some things we're building here in Silicon Valley right now. So I'm talking about aerial vehicles, and some of the trends we're seeing are hybridization of your power systems. Right now, most drones are built on LiPo batteries, which they don't have the energy intensity that they need in order to deliver the types of weights and distances we need right now. So we're looking at hybridization of combustion engines with battery systems. So kind of what you think of in like a Prius car. The other hybridization we're seeing is in the frame of the drone themselves. Multi-rotors are not energy efficient at all. They're essentially a flying brick. Whereas fixed wing aircrafts are much more energy efficient, but they need a takeoff and a landing area. So you have to build out the infrastructure as well as your drone fleet. So you can create a hybridization of that, and we call that VTOL, VTOL, which is vertical takeoff and landing. So it's an aircraft that has the fixed wings that you're used to seeing on many of your commercial planes and passenger planes, as well as those rotors on the top of the drone, which allows it to take off straight up in the air and hold its altitude and hold its place in the sky without needing to move forward. So one of the problems with traditional passenger aircraft is it has to move forwards at all times. It can't fly backwards. It can't stay in space, which makes it really hard when you're trying to get intense imagery of one area or when you're trying to deliver a package.
Yeah. Absolutely, very interesting. And how about kind of some of the misconceptions? Because I know it's a very new area, it's a hot topic, and people seem to be confused about kind of the uses of it. What exactly, you mentioned earlier, defining what exactly a drone was and the different types of drones. What are some other misconceptions you've heard?
So a lot of misconceptions are that, oh, this drone is spying on me. There's a lot of security concerns around drones right now. And to be honest, so I'm a traditional aircraft pilot as well. Let me tell you, from a pilot's point of view, we could see all the things that you could have seen with these little commercial drones anyway. So nothing has really changed. It's just the perception of the drones have changed. And a lot of that perception is built out of drone having the same name as the weaponized systems that have frequently been deployed in a militaristic setting. So there's a lot of confusion, a lot of like negative perception around these little essentially RC toys that are affiliated with these militaristic systems. So I think that's been a huge challenge for the industry so far, as well as...
How do you see, for example, moving past that or improving it?
I think just as we increase in usefulness of this technology, then we're going to move past the misconceptions as well. As soon as your everyday consumer starts to realize how this technology is improving their lives, then they're going to be able to move past kind of the militaristic image that is conjured by the word in their minds.
Yeah. Great. And so the misconception then mainly being kind of the perception of drones. So how about, I know since recently you've been working on a couple different projects in the area. Maybe you can tell us a little more about one of your kind of more pet projects or something that's a little more interesting lately.
Yeah, so I've been all over the map in the drone world. So I started off in the humanitarian drones, designing fixed wing, and then I moved into commercial for the energy sector. And most recently, I've been with teaching at Stanford's pre-collegiate program, Drones for Good, which is a really exciting initiative with the Stanford Peace Innovation Lab and a really incredible teacher, Mr. Freedom, who has decided, you know what, let's introduce high school students to this incredible technology and see what wonderful ideas they can come up with. And so the students were coming up with humanitarian airlift and using these types of drones to capture data on before and after an earthquake or a natural disaster to figure out where exactly you need to focus your attention and where there might be people that first responders need to address first. So that's been really wonderful. And the wonderful thing about working with students is they don't have any conceptions in their head about what is supposed to happen. One of the interesting things I've seen in the startup space is that experts are really hard at innovating because they don't want to disrupt something that they've spent their entire lives building or learning the frameworks for. So it's really wonderful to work with students who have none of these misconceptions in their head about what a drone is or what a drone should be or how a certain system works. Because as an expert, you're really terrible at starting a startup or innovating debating within your own industry.
Absolutely true. And I know that one of the misconceptions too is that only really high-tech companies deploy and use and do R&D around drones. What are some other industries or types of companies that you've come across who are pretty active in this space?
So there's a lot of use cases right now. The insurance industry is doing a great job of using drones for insurance claims. The real estate,
very interesting. How does that work?
So you can get before and after pictures of an event happening, and then it's a really quick and easy way to verify what has actually happened to the asset. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And then additionally, so we have insurance claims. We have the oil and gas sector is using drones to maintain their assets. Mm-hmm. Then we have, of course, package delivery, which Amazon has been talking about for a while. There are a couple of other startups in this space. Matternet is doing humanitarian delivery. Zipline is another company here in San Francisco. Flirty I believe they're in New Zealand now doing pizza delivery, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think I have heard of that, yeah.
Okay. So we're definitely in the nascent stages of drones as an infrastructure, drones as being a part of everyday life.
Yeah.
We're on that path right now, but I wouldn't say that we're quite there. We need an increase in that battery power or a better hybridization of energy systems, as well as we need more innovative body types of drones. Mm-hmm. And we can't discount the fact that we're going to have to build up an entire infrastructure around this drone as well. So where are they going to be taking off? What airspace are they going to be flying in? Where are they going to be landing? What are the rules and regulations around the use case of these drones? And we're having a really hard time with that here in the United States because our regulations have been a bit stymied. They've gone back and forth a couple of times. Initially, you had to register a drone with the FAA and you had to pay $5. Well, that was just taken back, and now you can get a receipt from the FAA and get your $5 back. So,
and you still have to register, or you don't need to?
You don't need to register your drone anymore.
Okay.
Well, let's make a note of the day. So this is this is middle of July.
You never know what could change.
Right, exactly.
So you mentioned U.S. regulations and some projects you worked on here. And the U.S. is obviously kind of the most advanced market for drones. But what other countries or regions have you seen that have gotten pretty active in recent time?
So the number one consumer drone right now is out of Shenzhen, China. DJI is the leader in consumer drones, and they're doing incredible things and innovating quicker than anyone else can keep up with them. So Southeast Asia is really doing a great job, both in terms of innovating and coming up with new frames, as well as their regulations are a little bit more open than here in the U.S. So I have a lot of friends in Indonesia or Malaysia that are flying drones regularly, whereas here in the U.S., it's just you just have to get a lot of permissions that makes it prohibitive to do some of those same beyond line of sight drone flights that you would be able to do there.
Very cool. And how about a few of the hottest startups that you've been following in the space?
So I'm really excited about Zipline. They have contracts with the Rwandan government to do medical aid delivery in Rwanda. They're looking to expand across Africa, so I think that's really exciting. They just got a Series A round led by Excel Partners a couple months ago. It was really great.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I think the market is it's open.
Yeah.
A lot of people are popping their heads up and then crumbling, or their consolidation is going on. Intel and Qualcomm are both making moves in the industry, which I think is interesting. I'm not sure where those are going to go. But until we have drones as an infrastructure, it's really going to be one-off flights. So it's going to be one person controlling one drone, which isn't inherently that useful. We need entire highways of drones delivering an ecosystem of goods and actionable data points to people that make decisions based off of that.
And if one did want to stay kind of up to date in this industry and just follow some of the trends, what are some sources of news or information about the industry that you'd recommend?
So one of the organizations that I write for, and they're really incredible within the drone world, is 360 Drone Magazine. They both have a print magazine as well as a website. I will be speaking at Drone World Expo in October.
Great.
So you can come to that conference.
And where is that?
I believe that is in the United States. I'm not sure if it's in San Jose. I think it might be in San Jose, California.
And that's a yearly conference?
Yep, it's an annual conference, as well as AUVSI, which is another drone conference that all the experts come to. And then, of course, CES, which is really the biggest tech conference. I've talked there the past 2 years, and I'm thinking about putting in a submission to speak again next year, so you can see me there, hopefully, in January.
It's a great event in general to get up to speed on some of the new, latest technologies.
Certainly.
Excellent. So is there anything else you kind of wanted to add about the drone industry, your experiences?
Yeah, I think the drone industry is really exciting, and I think we haven't found a lot of the use cases that drones are going to be applied to yet. A lot's happening in the mining and the construction world, both to map land initially and then plan, and then as a construction site is moving forwards, how do you measure if things are moving on track, as well as I think it's just really exciting, all the different use cases, and pinning down which ones will have the highest margins and which ones will eventually kind of become king. Really, really exciting.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of trial and error.
Right.
And that's always a fun process, and you're right in the heart of it. So hopefully we can follow up and catch up with you again down the road and see what other exciting projects you're working on.
Thank you so much, Hael.
Thank you.